仲間の数と配置は仲間の数と配置は
知らない。
仲間の数と配置は
知らないんだ。
What's going on, guys? Rogue TCG here bringing you another deck profile. This is going to be going back over to Magical Musketeers once again. It's one of my favorite decks. I believe it has a very interesting gameplay that some decks right now can't really stand up to, namely Rescue Ace. I do not believe it's a very favorable deck against for Rescue Ace to face. This deck does kind of eat it alive when it's going second. But that's enough yapping. Let's get to the cards. Put this to the side. Alrighty. We are main decking triple Magical Musketeer Caspar. This is the main one. When all the muskets have an effect, where you can activate magical muskets, spells, and traps from your hand as if they were like hand traps. And if a spell or trap is activated in their column, they have a designated effect. Caspar has the effect to search a magical musket card other than itself. So it is one of the best ones. So we're running triple Magical Musketeer Caspar. We are running triple Magical Musketeer Starfire. This one, when a spell is activated in column, will special Magical Musket from deck and defense position. So this one's also one of the better ones because it just gets Caspar. That's it for the three ofs. Now we are running two Magical Musketeer Dock. This one, on column effect, will add a musket card from your graveyard back to your hand other than the card activated in column. And that is also Caspar. Caspar can't add the same card that you activated in the column. So this is very good for recurring your resources over a long game, because with musket you are planning to play the long game. We are running a double Magical Musketeer Kid Brave. The column effect on this one is to discard a musket card and draw two. So this one lets us cycle our cards, get cards engraved that we don't necessarily need at that exact moment in order to draw. Because this can also force interaction because your opponent doesn't want to let you draw into things to break their board. So it can fetch interaction there. This is also the largest one in the main deck that we're playing. This one's at 1600. Huge front on that one. And then lastly, Magical Musketeer Calamity. When a spell trap's activated in column, reborn a musket and defense from your grave. Simple. Recursion is very important, so we are playing one of it. It is the second highest as well with 1500. Next, Honorary Musket, Eldritch the Golden Lord. A lot of the time throughout our games, we do end up with extra spells and traps that we either can't activate or we'd have no need to activate them. Eldritch can let one of those serve as a removal piece, sending a card from field to grave, as well as becoming a large body, something this deck desperately needs because a lot of its cards are weenies. So Eldritch does slot in quite well as just the one of in here. Next, we are running Magical Musketeer main deck spells and traps. We have triple Magical Musketeer Cross Domination. This one is a mix between Imperm as well as, for example, a Despian Quertus, where you can lower a target monster's attack to 0, as well as negating its effect, so it can be activated in damage step. However, you will not get your Musketeer's effects activation in damage step because they do not trigger there. So we're running 3 of that just because Imperm is very good. It's a very our main piece of interaction as well as protecting our monsters. Triple Desperado. This one is a Dryden. Target a face-up card of the field, destroy it. Very simple, very simple. All of these are hard onces, so typically for interaction on our opponent's turn, we do need to cycle through them. Triple Last Stand. This is also one of the better ones that we do want to see. This is a spell and trap negate, but most importantly, it is a counter trap. And that means your opponents cannot respond to this card's activation except with a counter trap. So this card does force a lot. A lot of decks don't have counter traps, namely Rescue Ace doesn't have one. So this basically is, if you open it or you search it or whatever, this lets you guarantee almost any play through any spell or trap, which is very important in this deck because this deck does kind of die to removal. Next, double Magical Musket Dancing Needle. This is D-Crow on crack, as I've heard. Someone said that, I believe, in 2019 or 2020 when Musket was kind of popping a little bit. We are running 2 Dancing Needle, target up 3 cards in the graveyards, banish them. You can stop Bestials from your opponent's Bestials when they're target stuff in your grave by banishing them. And if your opponent's playing a graveyard strategy, they're not going to like this card in the slightest. So that card's very powerful against those. Lastly, 1 Magical Musketeer Crooked Crown. This just grants us an additional special summon each turn, which is something the deck kind of needs because we don't really have any built-in extenders other than this card exactly. So we do need to play it just as a search target so we can get our off to the races. Also, it does block a zone off, so if your opponent has 4 monsters and they want to summon something, you could Crooked Crown to block that zone. So not completely irrelevant. Next, Honorary Musket card, Link into the Brains. I believe in my last deck profile I mentioned this, so I'm going to briefly go over this. It special summons a monster from your hand, negates its effects, and then immediately after the effect resolves, link summon link 1 monster. Link summon 1 link monster using monsters you control as material, including that monster. This link summon cannot be negated, and your opponent can't activate cards or effects when a link summon is conducted this way, meaning they can't respond to your effect of the link summoned card. If a link monster you control is destroyed by a battle card effect while this is in your grave, you can banish this, add a monster from your grave to your hand with the same original type as one of those. One of the issues with this deck is that there's not enough good Magical Musketeer monsters. We are kind of running close to the max. Maybe we might be able to push like 1 more Kid Brave, but this deck is very, very tight. So the ability to just recur them, not an engine, is very nice. Next, consistency cards and staples. Triple Pot of Prosperity. We are not really going into our extra deck too frequently, so this card does come up just to let us get cards. It is an anti-synergy with 1 other card in the staple list. However, you can pick other modes on that one, and you can see it right there. But we are running basically functionally a 6-card extra deck with 6 cards we're really going to be consistently going into. So we can afford to get rid of 9 of those cards to 2 prosperities. And also all our monsters are weenies, so the half damage is kind of already applicable to us, so whatever. Triple Tactics Talent. Your opponent responds to your cast bar negating it. Draw some cards, rip a card out of hand. This lets us play through our opponent's interrupts a little bit better, which is one of the issues the deck has. So Triple Tactics is a very good card for this deck. 1 Called by the Grave. We don't really want to be seeing too much interaction from our opponent, so any cards that we can really play, especially in the spell department, that makes us not have to put extra cards in our deck, namely cross out. Called by in this deck is kind of a given, to be honest. Herald of the Abyss as the 1 of removal in the main deck. Sometimes your opponent will just put a monster that you cannot out. We got Eperly Noir, I believe, as well as the Adignister Big Boy. Boral End Dragon is a little bit difficult. So we can force our opponents to choose a card they control, especially if they only control 1 of those monsters. We can force them to get rid of that. And we can just avoid it. It's also a normal spell card, so we can activate it. And sometimes we're just activating it just to get a negate out of our opponent. To let's say the Warlord Savage, get that off the board functionally. We are running a triple Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. I think this is just always going to be one of the better hand traps. And I just always see this card just performing. So we are running triple Ash as our hand trap of choice. And the last hand trap of choice is the other, I think, power player, Infinite Impermanence. What's better than 1 imperm? 2 imperms. So we are running we're running 6 copies of Functionally Imperm in this deck, which is very nice for making our opponents be like, why can't I play? And we go, I must allow you to play. Now onto our extra deck. Let's get this out the way. We are running triple magical Musketeer Max. This card is the reason you play this deck. It needs a level 8 or lower magical musket. When it's link summoned, you can activate one. Either add magical musket spells or traps with different names from your deck to your hand up to the number of monsters your opponent controls, or special summon magical musket monsters with different names from your deck up to the number of spells and traps they control. This is the reason why Rescue Ace can't really consistently do anything against this deck. If they go first and they set up their 5 back row or 4 back row, make a max with Link to the Vrains, they can't respond to it, and then you just summon 4 monsters all in zones where those back row are. Now, anytime they activate a back row, they're threatening, they have to, like, basically, if they're destroying a card, they have to destroy the card in column. So you're really limiting their options, like, and you're making them make bad plays. So we're running a triple magical Musketeer Max, just so we can do it as many times as we need to. If we're playing a long, grindy game, what's better than 1 max, 2 maxes, 3 maxes? Next. Muckraker from the Underworld. These are all Fiend monsters. This lets us get cards back from our grave that we need. Let's say they get rid of our cast bar before we can activate its effect. We have 2 bodies on board. We can make a Muckraker and bring that cast bar right back, because we do sometimes have extra cards in hand, and this is a good way to get Eldritch out of hand. IP Masquerena, just to have a generic link. We're often taking this out with Prosp. Pit Knight Philly and Pit Knight Early. This is a personal choice of mine. These 2 cards combo with each other. Pit Knight Early says when a monster this card points to activates its effect, target effect monster on the field until end of turn changes attack to 0 to negate its effects. And during the end phase in the grave, because it's destroy a battle or card effect and set there this turn, you can special summon this card. And then Philly says if this card is special summoned to a zone a link monster points to, target 1 monster you control with 1500 or less attack. This card can make a second attack on 1 month during each battle phase. If it battles an opponent's monster, any battle damage it inflicts to your opponent is doubled. And then during the standby phase, it comes back as well. So if your opponent has, let's say, for example, 4 back row, and you have Into the Vrains and a musket, Into the Vrains, bring out the musket into Max. Max, bring out 4 bodies, Early, Philly, and then you can make something 0. And if you're trying to negate their Early, you have an archetypal Early as well in Cross Dom. So you can make them feel real silly for interrupting that. Next, the Nightmare Phoenix. Typically, it's going to be a prosperity target. However, it's just a flex slot. SP Little Knight, the format All-Star. Typically, you use it with a Link Monsters material. Guess what's a Link 1 that functionally has no use after you get its effect? Max. Listen, folks. I understand. The Link 1 of a deck is very scary. But Max, after he's resolved his effect, is functionally useless. He doesn't do anything on board except let you activate the musket cards from hand. And most musket boards aren't going to end with just Max. There's going to be another one. So if you have removal, don't use it on Max. Every time it happens to me, I giggle a little bit because I go, hee hee ha ha. I made you you wasted removal on a card that I'm going to make again next turn no matter what. So, SP Little Knight, if this card's Link summoned using a Synchro Xyz or Link or Fusion, target a card on field or in either grave, banish it. And also your opponents can't attack directly this turn. When your opponent activates a card effect, quick effect, target 2 face-up monsters on the field, including a monster you control, banish both until the end phase. This also lets our muskets dodge removal, which is one of the issues with muskets, is them getting removed off the field. So this card is just all around a great card for the deck. Next, another flex slot, Nightmare Unicorn. Yeah, we're not really going to be making this too much, but if we do really end on an optimistic first turn board, or we need a break board going second, we don't have Prosp, Unicorn is always going to be an option. But with SP Little Knight, not necessarily as necessary. Mech Knight Crusadia Abramax. We have a lot of links in this deck, and we don't really got too much to do with them, so might as well throw into an Abramax if the opponent has something difficult to deal with. Access code Talker. We have a lot of links in this deck. We can link climb. We can summon 4 monsters. We can make them. So why not run them? Another out to cards that are really difficult to out. Underworld Goddess of the Closed World, just to ensure that we are always able to get rid of those Tesky monsters. Just have the availability to do so. This deck is very flexible in its matchups. So there is a lot of flexibility and personalization that you can do with the extra deck if you would like. Time Thief Redo and Abyss Dweller are the last 2 cards. I have put an Abyss Dweller personally for graveyard-oriented decks, such as Tier Limit, and Time Thief Redo when we're going to have longer, grindier matches, so we can get continuous advantage off of our opponents. That's it for the extra. Here is my personalized side deck. This is my side deck, and this is not the side deck. Just a word of warning. We are on double Fantastical Dragon Phantasme. There are a lot of link decks currently, so if we can run against one of those, we can put this in the main deck. It lets us get a big body and prevent targeting. Just a great overall card. Double Enemy Controller. It's a spell card, has great utility. Don't see why I wouldn't run it. Here's the 3rd Dancing Needle in case we really find a graveyard deck, so we can hate on them even more. A Harpy's Feather Duster, it's a normal spell card. It does have anti-synergy with Max, but if we've already activated Max, then we can get rid of all our stuff. We don't care anymore. And then going first cards. This deck is very adept at going second. But going first, it is a little bit pathetic because it's always going to be like normal summon a Musket, set like a couple cards, and pass. And that's going to be it. And you're just going to be playing like functionally a control deck, because this is a control deck. So let's make our lives going first a little easier. Double Solemn Strike in the side. Another hand trap. Triple Dimensional Shifter. We don't actually necessarily need our graveyards. Sure, we have Dock, and we have Calamity, and we have Enter the Vrains, but we don't need our graveyard. We have running 3 of almost every card in the deck. So if it gets banished, then it's like, okay, like that's fine. I have another one, and everything's searchable with Max. So if this hurts your opponent way more than it hurts you, just put it in. Speaking of going first cards and Macrocosmos, Dimensional Fissure, any monsters to the grave is banished, and also Macrocosmos, any card sent to the grave is banished. Lastly, our going first tools, we are running Double Dimensional Barrier, just to stop functionally almost every deck except for link decks. But for link decks, we have Phantasme, so no issue. But that's the whole deck profile. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you did watch, please leave a like and subscribe. It really means a lot to me. I believe around 98% of viewers are not subscribed, so if you do subscribe, it really helps me out a lot. It's just one click of a button, and you can always turn off the notifications if you don't want to be bothered by me. But again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.